Good day. My name is Matthew Khacher and welcome to Let's Talk Armenian Mental Health. Today, we come together not only as a community, but as part of a broader initiative. We're all here to engage in a deep and meaningful conversation as we hope to eradicate stigma, promote mental health awareness, and educate our community on mental health issues. This roundtable is brought to you and organised by the Mental Health Foundation Australia as part of their month-long endeavour to connect with communities across the nation. Just before we begin, I just want to pay my respects to all Torres Strait and Aboriginal Islanders across the nation, to pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. So as part of the Mental Health Foundation's endeavour, they are raising funds to support the good work that they do, and they need your help and our help. So please visit https:/mentalhealthappeal.mhfa.org.au or call 0388253590 to donate. We'd like to thank Mr. Vasan Srinivasan, the CEO of the Mental Health Foundation Australia, and Mr. Jim Gooden, the Vice Chair, for attending tonight and listening to this important conversation. The Mental Health Foundation Australia's mission is to encourage conversations about mental health within different cultural contexts, and today the Armenian voice is heard. By talking together, we can promote better mental health for all. First and foremost, I'll introduce our distinguished guests who each offer unique insights into this important topic. First is Father Khacher, or Dad, priest in English, who preaches at St. Mary's Apostolic Church in Surrey Hills, and will present and educate our audience and us into the ways that faith intersects with mental health and how religion and our culture and belief can fortify mental health. Secondly, Diana Arzaman is a licensed generalist psychologist specializing in educational and development psychology for private practice over 20 years. So Diana is going to provide us with professional insights into mental health challenges and stigma in the Armenian community. We'll be talking about the why of stigma and the how to combat it. Third, we've got Robert Ince, who is a small business owner and devoted father, who has been navigating the challenges of raising a daughter with autism. Robert, your presence here today illuminates a reality that many might not fully comprehend. This experience is filled with unique challenges, resilience is tested, and of course, unwavering support is paramount. We want to acknowledge the immense difficulties parents like you face, but we also want to acknowledge the boundless love you have for your daughter. Your enduring love not only enriches your daughter's life, but also serves as a beacon of hope for others. Lastly, Gloria Hotakorzian and Maral Tchorbadjian, who are two dedicated, passionate, long-serving members of the Armenian community. So, for those who don't know, Maral is the chairperson of AGBU Melbourne, and Gloria is the vice chairperson. They're here today to share their insights into community well-being and how AGBU has helped and will continue to support and promote Armenian well-being, sport, culture, as well as supporting humanitarian efforts related to Armenians across the world. One thing to note about this interview is that it will be spoken in English, but at some points, any one of our guests may speak in Armenian if they choose. Note also that while some questions will be directed at specific guests, others can chime in if they wish. We're all here to talk and to learn. So I'll begin. So this is question one. Deraj, in your experience, how has faith and religion helped individuals in the Armenian community cope with mental health challenges? And what role do you believe that our faith, the Christian faith, and the religion and church can play in helping those with mental illness?
My English not enough strong to speak fluently. I will try to explain in Armenian language. Անշուշտ խոսելով առողջական, հոգեկան առողջական խնդիրների մասին եւ հատկապես եկեղեցին ինչպես կբացատրի այս խնդիրները, շատ կարեւոր է եկեղեցի համար, թե նաեւ մեր հավատքին համար, թե ինչ են հոգեկան խնդիրները, որովհետեւ մեր եկեղեցու հայրերի բացատրությամբ մարդը երկու մասից է բաղկացած հիմնականը, մարմնական եւ հոգեկան, մարմնական աշխարհ եւ հոգեկան աշխարհ, որը երկուսի իրավետ շատ շահկապված են, բայց եւ շատ կարեւոր են երկուքի խնամքը, հոգեկան առողջության, հոգեկան կայունության, խաղաղության համար։ Ինչպես մենք մարմինը մենք միշտ հոգ կտանենք, կսնուցենք, կխնամենք, երբ որ հիվանդ ենք, բժշկի կերտանք, եւ միշտ ամենօրյա հոգատության ներքո է մեր մարմինը, նույնպես եւ հոգեկան աշխարհը պետք է այդպես հոգատության ներքո լինի։ Այսինքն այդ դժվարությունները մարդը որ կհանդիպի, պետք է կարողանա իր հոգեկան ներաշխարհով կարողանա գտնել դրա լուծումները կամ թերապիաները կամ բուժումները ընտանիքի մեջ, ընկերների մեջ, եկեղեցում, աղոթքի մեջ եւ կարողանա կրկին վերականգնվել եւ կարողանա իր առողջական հոգեկան առողջական հավասարակշռությունը պահպանել։ Իսկ հատուկ հոգեկան, այսինքն հիվանդությունների մասին բազմաշերտ է, որովհետև կա տարիքային տարբերություն, երեխաների մոտ տարբեր է, իմ փորձառությամբ երիտասարդների, մեծահասակ, ամեն մեկի մոտ տարբեր ձևով կնկատվի, բայց ինձ թվում է, ես կկարծեմ, որ հոգեկան հիվանդության կամ դժվարությունների ամենամեծ պատճառը այն է, որ մարդը առաջնահերթությունը տալիս է նյութական ներկա ժամանակի մեջ շատ պահանջներ կան ծնողների, ընտանիքի, երիտասարդների վրա կյանքում հաջողվելու, աշխատելու, ստեղծելու, ամեն բանին հասնելու։ Մեր եկեղեցականներից մեկը հետևյալ օրինակ է տալիս, ասում էր մեծ քաղաքներից հեռու, կամ գյուղերում ապրող մարդիկ երջանիկ էին ապրում, որովհետև հեռուստացույց չկար։ Երբ որ հեռուստացույցը մեջտեղ եկավ, բոլորը դժբախտ դարձան, որովհետև ամբողջ աշխարհը քարոզվում է բարեկեցություն, լավ մեքենա, տուն, եւ մարդը ցկտում է դրան հասնել։ Շատ աշխատել, իր հոգեկան դժվարությունները չի կարողանում, այսինքն շտկել, նորոգել, ժամանակ ունենա ընտանիքի հետ անցկացնի, ընկերների հետ ժամանակ ունենա, գնա եկեղեցի աղոթք անի եւ հավասարակշռի իր կյանք հոգեկան ներաշխարհը։ Կարծում եմ, որ հիմնական խնդիրները հոգեկան դժվարությունների այդ նյութական աշխարհի կամ առնավոր աշխարհին ավելի շատ տեղ տալն է եւ հոգեվորի մասին քիչ ժամանակ հատկացնելն է, այսինքն հոգեկան ներաշխարհով հարստանալն ու խաղաղվելն։
Very good. One thing that I'll just mention with when someone's, like as you said, someone with struggling with mental health and all these types of things, religion can help just to, I think, there's like the way that faith and religion and all these types of things that can help you to, I think, cope with certain things around the world. So that's my kind of opinion on that as well. So Diana, as a psychologist, could you please shed some light on the unique social or cultural factors that influence mental health stigma in the Armenian community, and how can we as a community, sometimes divided, sometimes not, address these factors?
There is a big stigma attached to seeing a psychologist or sometimes being a psychologist. When I tell people that I'm a psychologist, they just tell me, oh, so you're a shrink. Okay, so that's unfortunately still going on. So that's unfortunately it's the case with our community too, the Armenian community, Matthew. When I first started studying psychology back in Turkey in 1988, when I told people that I was studying psychology, the first reaction I got from people, luckily not from my parents, that, oh, why do you want to become a psychologist? And why don't you become a lawyer instead? You'd make so much more money. People didn't understand the value of psychology at that time. And I asked them, why wouldn't I become a psychologist? What's wrong with being a psychologist? And they said, I'm going to deal with crazy people. So unfortunately, people don't understand that psychology is for everybody, people. All of us can go through a difficult time and we might need a psychologist. There's a lot of separation, divorce, people with sick family members or kids with disabilities or death in the family. So this could happen to anybody. So that's where we need a psychologist. So it's not just for particular people, not for particular cultural or educational backgrounds, but it is for everybody. Another challenge is actually thinking that change is not possible. So this is what I experience in my practice most of the time, that I've been like this diner for the past 40, 50 years. How can I possibly change now? So our people unfortunately think like this too. If you think that you're not going to change, then you're not going to change. Okay, so when you go to a psychologist, you have to have that open mind that, you know, change is possible. You know the saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks? I absolutely disagree with that. Although I had an old dog and I know how hard it was to actually teach an old dog new tricks.
Yes.
As long as you've got enough treats, you'll teach.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
phase will be different, it
Yeah.
will be slow, but you can actually do it. So we have to believe that we can, you know, make this change possible. We just have to be persistent, patient, consistent. Don't expect magic from a psychologist. Okay, we can't give you the Testosterone numbers either. So this is going to take some time. So you just have to, you know, make sure that, you know,
Yeah.
you're going to be determined to do that.
Mm.
Another challenge is actually thinking that you're just alone in this. Unfortunately, Matt, when it comes to physical problems, people are very happy to talk about their physical problems. When it's diabetes, when it's asthma, they talk about this. I've got this and I've been using this medication, or I've been avoiding certain foods and my diabetes is in control. But when it comes to mental illnesses, people don't have the same regard.
Yep.
They think that it's a personal weakness. So I am weak, everybody else is doing okay, but I'm the weak one.
Do you think that's a cultural, that stems from some sort of a cultural thing that we have that?
I don't think so.
No, it's a
You
general
don't? Okay,
thing.
it's a general thing.
general thing. But obviously, if your friend doesn't come and tell you about their problems, you think that you're alone there. So, and they might have the same problem too, because the prevalence is the same. 1 in 4 people would have a mental illness. So when we look at this, you know, 2 of us might have that. But unfortunately, because we don't share, and because our community is just so small, we can become a bit more secretive
Yep.
in that sense.
Yep.
So we think that we're alone in doing that.
Yep.
And last issue is actually the confidentiality. People think that they're going to discuss things with us, and we're going to go and discuss that with other people or whatever. And being a sort of small community here, and most of us would go to the same medical centres, people might think that, oh, I can't, you know, trust her because she's going to go and discuss that with the GP there, or my friends are going to see, my friends might ask her or the GP. The session is fully confidential. People need to be aware of that. There are some circumstances like self-harm or harming others or legal cases, but apart from that, it's fully confidential. So feel free, come and get help.
Thank you.
Matt.
That's wonderful. Robert, so within the very close-knit Armenian community, the significance of support, of course, can never be overstated. Could you please share some experiences regarding the kind of support you've received while navigating your daughter's journey with autism? How has community played a role in both you and your daughter's mental well-being?
As opposed to speaking about generalities, maybe I can talk about specifics a little bit, because I only know what we went through. Emma is 14 years old, my daughter. She was diagnosed at 2.5. So we've been living with this for 12 years or more. When she was first diagnosed, my wife and I, we kind of went into depression mode, which lasted for about 5 years. It was a very difficult period for us. Through the support of family and close friends, we were able to come out the other side. In hindsight, I don't know why it took us that long, but we're all human beings and everybody deals with things in their own way, in their own time. I think when we came out into the broader community with our story, it made us feel much, much better and lighter. We found lots of help and support within the close group of friends that we had. But even so, when I look back at it now, even the people that are close to us, the closest, who've come along the journey with us, there are times when even they don't understand what it's like today. So that's a difficult thing. But I find Armenian community is a close-knit community, and most people, almost all of the people mean well, but sometimes it doesn't equate because they just don't understand what it is like. There's lots of stories, but challenges, problems don't end. Some problems we were able to overcome. Other problems fix themselves but morph into other problems as a 14-year-old becomes a 16-year-old, 18-year-old, 20-year-old. But I'm really lucky. This whole thing has brought my wife and I really close together. It could have had the opposite effect. We went through lots of instances where it was mayhem and chaos at home. It's like, you can throw books at each other, say things you don't mean. But pretty early on in the piece, we actually sat down and we had a discussion. Regardless of what happens today, whatever we do today, tomorrow morning we get up and we say, good morning, how you feeling today?
Exactly.
And the problems of yesterday pretty much stay there. Lots of negatives, some positives. We've also become realists. This is going to be with us for the rest of our lives. So we need to learn to live with it as best we can. But the support of initially parents, siblings, and then close friends has been monumental. And like I said, it's an ongoing challenge, but I think I'm in a better place today than, put it this way, 5 years ago. I don't think, maybe 6 years ago, I don't think I could have sat around here, talked about things like this, which means we're getting better at this.
Wonderful. I'm very happy to hear that. So, this is to Gloria and Maral. How has AGBU Melbourne strengthened and fortified the mental health, or AGBU in general, I should say, mental health and well-being of our Armenian community? So, what has been done, what is being done, and what more can be done? So this question, particularly, the Armenian community knows, but for those who don't know of different communities, I'd really like to sort of hear that so people can really see what an incredible community that we are and what we're doing.
Thank you. As AGBU is an international organization, so we've decided with Gloria, I'll take the global AGBU perspective, and then Gloria will take the local, the Melbourne chapter. So as we all know, AGBU is an international organization, and well-being of the Armenian people has always been one of its major objectives worldwide. Maybe the terminology mental health was not known back in 1906, but let us just have a very quick look at the AGBU's activity since it's during the last 117 years of its existence, and we can see that the well-being of the Armenian people, may that be physically, mentally, socially, was utmost importance. Now, since its inception in 1906 and its first decade, AGBU began its long-standing mission of promoting socio-economic and educational development of Armenians living in the Ottoman Empire. Now, in the magnitude of the Armenian genocide, atrocity meant a refugee crisis that spanned multiple countries and continents. And let's imagine a crisis, the extent of the mental health issues in crisis of this magnitude. We can't imagine.
No.
It's not little, it's a massive.
Yep.
AGBU and its world-reaching chapters worked to ensure supplies made their way into the hands of tens of thousands of survivors, leveraging relationship with various governments, because it's different countries. Refugees came to Syria, came to Lebanon, so they needed to leverage, get regulations or understanding by government of those countries. AGBU set up orphanages, schools, trade schools, and more to help deported Armenians settle in their new lives. All these, of course, helped towards their mental health, feeling secure, and so on. Now, in the 20s, throughout the 20s, AGBU opened and subsidized orphanages and schools across Near East. Not one, not two, many, across all the countries. In Soviet Armenia era, AGBU became the only all-Armenian benevolent organization allowed to function there. So AGBU had presence in Soviet Armenia times. In the 50s, for the first time after the Armenian genocide, a generation of the survivor children and grandchildren were now coming in age in the diaspora. So AGBU was key to their well-being, from youth programs to social events and outings. So the 50s was the era of AGUP. AGUP means cultural center. Like this building is AGBU AGUMP in Melbourne. So the cultural centers was providing venue for and opportunities for community development in countless cities around the world. Now, understanding the importance of the investment in the next generation, in the 60s saw a surge in youth programs, investment by AGBU, educational scholarship, camps, scout groups, all just to invest for the future generation. So you invest when they're young and so that they become model citizens in their adulthood. In the 1975, during the Lebanese Civil War, AGBU made the long-standing commitment to the greater Armenian and Lebanese community by continuing to run the medical dispensaries, as well as clothing and all the rest. Now, for example, they converted the Alex Manukyan Cultural and Athletic Center into a safe haven for the victims, attending to their physical, mental needs. After the next crisis, after the devastating earthquake that struck Soviet Armenia in December '88, AGBU took immediate action with a massive international relief effort. We all know the long-lasting effects of that on the mental health. Now, AGBU leadership oversaw critical emergency efforts that saved tens of thousands of lives. Within 3 days of the disaster, AGBU began distributing clothing, food, medicine, and other provisions to Armenia, facilitating medical treatments, may that be physical or mental or psychological. Much like earlier efforts, AGBU focused on healthcare initiatives to ensure the safety and care of the Armenian people physically and mentally. And this is after the independence of Armenia in 1991. The scope of AGBU's operation in Armenia expanded dramatically with an eye to modernizing the country socially and economically. With the homeland now young and thriving country, AGBU developed programs to bring diaspora youth to Armenia. How? Because we have, as you all know, we have 10 million Armenians living outside of Armenia. So they need to be close to their roots, to their homeland. So AGBU developed a lot of programs, Discover Armenia program, Musical Armenia program. This is all to bring the young from diaspora to Armenia. Disaster struck again for the Armenians. So relying on the long-standing network of supporters, AGBU launched the Humanitarian Relief Fund for the Syrian Armenian in 2012, as the reality of the Syrian civil war set in, with the physical, social, and mental health issues again at
there seems to be
Yes.
a sort of
pattern.
reoccurring here
Yes.
where
Yeah.
something incredibly
Yes.
horrific happens.
Yeah.
AGBU is
It's
there
first
to
on the
step in.
scene.
first
Yeah.
responders almost
Yes.
in a sense where they come, everything is sort of
Yes.
Dealt
fixed
with.
and
Yes.
if it
The
isn't,
blueprint
it
is
gets
there, so that just, and because
Yeah.
it's international organization, massive chapters, big number of
Yeah, of
chapters,
course.
countries, so it's across the globe.
Yeah, of course.
Now, in the year paralyzed by pandemic, 2020, plus an explosion in Lebanon and a traumatic 44-day Artsakh war. Again, AGBU was as mobile as ever, with volunteers in all locations, serving their communities locally and providing critical aid to those that needs it globally. Finally, we come to December 2022. The 2022, the extended economic blockage imposed by the Azerbaijan did bring 120,000 Armenians, indigenous Armenians, to the brink of economic collapse. The humanitarian disaster, with all its mental health issues, it's massive. The plan was, when the only road connecting Armenia to Artsakh reopened, AGBU was prepared and ready to accelerate the recovery from the economic, physical, mental, and social setback that the brave community, Artsakh community, endured for long 9 months. But obviously, as we all know, this did not happen.
No.
And on September 19, 2023, Azerbaijan launched a new military operation against Nagorno-Karabakh. So the focus has changed again. So September 24, thousands of ethnic indigenous Armenians have started fleeing Nagorno-Karabakh for the first time since the Azerbaijan launched the attack. So at the moment, currently, more than 100,000 refugees arrived in Armenia as a result of this military operation to take Nagorno-Karabakh. Now, if you think we started back in 1906, we had the genocide 1915. So if we think 108 years after the first genocide of the 20th century, Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh once again were forced to leave their home, their homeland, their houses, their work, their everything. And you can now imagine the extent of the mental health issues arising from this. And this is not only for Armenians, so much for Armenians of Artsakh, but Armenians of Armenia and us in diaspora, because we are in the same dilemma. We've lost our a part of our homeland.
A continual attack,
yes,
a continual flee. Now,
So that's the global issue of AGBU and
you.
its active involvement for always helping or coming to the rescue during disasters and also more peaceful times.
It's a very rich chronological look at it. So for anyone, of course, listening and watching, you're very much now aware of the rich history of AGBU. So, Gloria,
Yes.
so just in regards to the Melbourne...
The local ones.
Yeah, the Melbourne profile's a lot happier, luckily. Yeah, I just wanted to say first that AGBU is a community organisation, just to get that across. And community to us is defined as a group of people who've got something in common. In our case, it's religion, language, traditions, culture and values. And we hold all those very high. Now, to address your questions of what AGBU are doing with the mental health issues currently and what is being done, I'll just address that initially to say that from a Melbourne chapter perspective, of more recent times through COVID and the serious lockdowns that we all had to undergo, we launched and conducted numerous webinars to keep our community engaged and the topics were a myriad of topics, but we tried to focus on things that would stimulate conversation, which we thought was very important, and by giving a platform where we could have an online discussion. It was a webinar per se, but there was opportunity for the community to talk, ask questions and be responded to, and that engagement, we hope, led them out of the doldrums of being confined to their home situation, obviously. During that period, we also extended a little bit of extra care to our seniors by delivering care packages of treats and essentials to their home, because we're very mindful that they're frail, they're isolated, they're lonely, and mental health is a big factor in their lives.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Now, not to steal from Diana's thunder, but a while back, we also, a long time ago, but to show that we are aware of the need of mental health, and despite what you said about psychologists not being, say, approached because there's a stigma about
Yes.
going to a psychologist, we tried to break down that barrier by inviting another member of our community, Harip, to speak, to lecture to us about the tools that we can engage in to break down those barriers and stigmas. But I confess we took it no further, you know, and this, if anything, is a catalyst for
Yes.
us to do something
So maybe
more
we
about
can
it.
organize
Something
with,
with Diana.
Diana,
Yeah.
to have a
That
sort
would
of
be
a gathering,
fantastic.
a lecture type,
Yeah,
to talk with
and
yeah.
General
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
general, yeah,
individual?
we'll,
that would be
just,
good.
yeah. we'll-
and currently, and as an ongoing thing, we think communication and keeping in touch with our community, not just our members, our database goes out to as many Armenians as have shared their email addresses with us. Years ago, it used to be just to members, but we realised Armenians are Armenians at the end of the day. You know, you don't have to belong to a club.
Yeah.
And we keep in touch with them through social network, through electronic notices, through our quarterly newsletter. But in a more physical sense, we have a gathering here at our centre every month. We have a meal night, and the meal night really is not because people are going hungry. It's just an opportunity for people to get together as an extension. We feel our centre offers an extension of their own homes. And it's very important for us to create the opportunity for people to converse, to talk, to network, to discuss, to share their problems.
Yes,
Exactly. Because it's through that you find out little things about people.
Yeah, of course. In that
And we were just having a discussion with my grandson before when he said, "Where are you going, Nene?" And I explained it to him, and I said how important it is for us to not just talk, but to listen. Yeah. And to listen and observe as well. And you see little triggers, and correct me if I'm wrong, Diana, where somebody that you've known every month that's come to a meal night, for example, manifests a different persona. Suddenly they're not looking after themselves as well, or they've become more reclusive, or they're not eating as heartily, or they're just down in the doldrums or something. That could be a sign that they need help.
Yes,
But
yeah.
what we need are the tools on how to reach them. We recognize it, but then you don't want to be invasive and sort of approach them and say, "What's wrong with you?" Because some people just, there is a stigma to asking for help. And the irony is that our elderly, with whom we interact a lot, because we are members of the social support program too, and we put on meals for them, take them out, etc. The elderly, for some reason, are less bound by stigma. They're more open, in my opinion. This is my person. This is not AGBU talking, really. And they tell you, "Oh, you know, this is hurting, that's hurting, I'm not so happy, and my son hasn't come to visit me in ages, and I don't know, my granddaughter's so rude to me, blah, blah, blah." And they'll do all this to you, but it's the youth that I worry about. It's the youth that are so, they hold everything in, and they're the ones we really need to reach out to. And that, to me, is a very important tool that we need to learn how to engage our youth. And to that end, and correct me if I'm wrong, Maral, we try very hard to organise events that will engage the youth, get them to participate, because by participating, because volunteer work is a very rewarding thing. It is, isn't it? It really is. And by engaging our youth through time, it's not overnight, they develop a sense of self-worth and self-esteem, and that rubs off. And really, our youth are our future. And if we don't build those strong foundations, we're going nowhere fast, really.
Thank you. That's an incredible discussion. I was actually surprised in regards to the senior discussion. I thought it'd be the other way around.
Yes.
You would
But
think so.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Diana, so I think Maral's 100% touched on this, and I think absolutely everyone in the room understands exactly what kind of where this next question is going to go. But do you feel that there are unique challenges faced by Armenians in diaspora concerning mental health that demand perhaps specific therapeutic strategies? Are there sort of unique challenges that we face?
Well, I guess right now the most sort of unique thing is the war, as Maral
Yep.
mentioned it. I think that's all of us just feel so helpless and hopeless and depressed and anxious about how to help those
Yep.
people over there. Apart from that, I guess the challenges are more for the sort of other ethnic communities too. We're relatively a new community here. We don't have a lot of generations here, unlike the Greeks or the Italians. So Robert was lucky that he had a lot of support, but we might have some families that they don't have a lot of support here, and they might have a kid with a disability, or they might they've got a young couple and they would like to go out for their anniversary dinner and they don't have anybody to leave their children with, or they might not have friends. So I'm glad that we are there to sort of support those people, because social support is very, very important in psychology. Apart from that, the language barrier mostly for the older generations, because it would be very hard for them to come to a psychologist with an interpreter. They definitely wouldn't want to drag their family members.
Especially Armenian interpreters. The same stigma that she's going to know my story. I don't want her to know my story or my worries. So that's another issue.
That's exactly right. Then then another person is knowing, and everybody else is going to know in the community, and telling them that this is fully confidential, and because of the language barrier, probably our elderly people are more sort of not feeling a part of the wider community. They might not converse with their neighbors as much, so that would be the
Wonderful. Thank you, Diana, for that comment. So this question goes now to Gloria and Maral, but of course everyone can naturally chip in if they would like to. So how can community events celebrating Armenian culture be transformed into platforms for mental health awareness, offering resources, workshops, and discussions on mental health well-being now naturally within the context of cultural identity? Is this a matter of, as you just mentioned, perhaps youth mental health sort of spaces or something of the sort? Because as we've just spoken about, there is a stigma.
There is, yeah.
How can we then combat it with perhaps youth? And then how can we do that in the cultural sense? What are your sort of thoughts and opinions on that?
That's an interesting one. Actually, I pondered about that on my way here, what I would say about that. Essentially, I think more of same. I think just maintaining the status quo of having people, the communication, the comings and goings, making the centre like an extension of their home, just to make them familiar and comfortable enough to be able to reach out to us. You can't force people to be warm and fuzzy. It takes time. It takes time. And I'm the first to admit that we don't have the true educational tools to assist them, but we have the heartfelt tools. And that's, I think, the first step. The first step. But again, I reiterate that the youth is the most important. For me, whilst I'm in the senior sort of category, forget me now, it's the young ones that we really have to concentrate on, and giving them opportunities to come to cultural events, religious events, entertaining. Like recently we had that performing arts concert that you were so integral in delivering. That sort of thing. Whilst initially it didn't seem to be the type of forum where children would be interested, we had a huge amount of young people come.
Yes, that was absolutely true.
Exactly. And all those things, I think, are little triggers that will ultimately tick all those boxes.
I completely agree. I think now that there's that youth thing that you mentioned, that, as you said, also there's heart. But the good news is that there are people as well that have that capacity, and then you've got faith leaders, of course,
Yes.
That's
who
right.
are complete pillars of community and who we are as a people. And as you're talking, there's this beautiful thing that our faith can give us hope, and the religion
Exactly,
and all of these
yeah.
types of things, and it's so important to who we are, and it can help us, and it can give us hope and strength, and all of these types of things, and we can use that. We don't have to shy from that
No.
when we're helping each other. And even to sort of discuss with Robert's thing, there's this thing of community, that the fact that we're all sort of, we're not talking, we're not opening up in that sense, but we're talking about talking.
Yes.
And I think that's a beautiful thing, to talk and to discuss, because then from talking and discussing you can act, but even just by talking you can then open up further conversation. So it's like a
Yeah.
babushka of talking, and you
Yes.
figure
That's
things
true.
out. Look, thank you Father, thank you Diana, Robert, Gloria and Maral for sharing your valuable insights. So this discussion, I think, with mental health professionals and pillars and community leaders and all these, and just people in community, of course, it provides that roadmap, I believe, to fostering resilience and understanding and support within community, because quite literally we just had that conversation. We've discussed, already sitting down here, and we've gone, what can you do? Before this conversation, you might have said, oh, not really entirely sure where to kind of go about it, but now there's like, okay, well, this can work, that can work, that can work. So to our listeners, let this discussion be a catalyst for change, embrace understanding, nurture empathy, and challenge the stigma regarding mental health. So a very heartfelt thank you to the Mental Health Foundation, Mr. Vasan Srinivasan, and Mr. Jim Gooden for letting me engage and moderate this discussion. So together, let's continue this journey towards a more compassionate and supportive future. Thank you for joining us today.